Hey guys, tonight we're taking a truly uncomfortable journey back to the very origins of drama, to the sun-drenched amphitheaters of ancient Greece, particularly Athens, famed for its groundbreaking tragedies and comedies, but forget the grand spectacles, the profound philosophical dialogues, and the enduring artistic legacy. You're about to discover the miserable backstage life of an ancient Greek theater actor, a grim reality where the pursuit of dramatic glory came at a profound personal cost, marked by precarious social status, brutal physical demands, and constant public scrutiny. This wasn't a glamorous career for the faint of heart. It was a demanding, often reviled profession that broke bodies and strained voices, all for the fleeting applause of a demanding audience. Frankly, you probably wouldn't survive the first month of rehearsals without longing for a simpler, less dramatic, and far less public life. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me, where in the world are you tuning in from, and what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself suddenly standing in the backstage area of the Theater of Dionysus in Athens, around the 5th or 4th century BCE, the golden age of Greek tragedy and comedy. The massive open-air theater looms before you, its stone seats capable of holding thousands of spectators, waiting for the performance to begin. The air is thick with the dust of the stage, the faint scent of olive oil from lamps, and the nervous energy of anticipation. You are not a spectator, you are an actor hypocrites, a responder, one of the few individuals entrusted with embodying the gods, heroes, and mortals of Greek drama. But your life, despite the apparent glory of the stage, is about to reveal its profound miseries. The path to becoming an ancient Greek actor was fraught with challenges, beginning with a fundamental contradiction: your precarious social status. While actors could achieve immense fame and wealth, and their performances were central to Athenian civic and religious life, festivals like the Dionysia were major state events. The profession itself often carried a subtle, yet pervasive, stigma. Unlike revered poets or philosophers, actors, particularly in earlier periods, were sometimes viewed with suspicion or disdain by respectable society. They were seen as performers, engaging in a profession that involved public display and, crucially, impersonation, pretending to be someone you were not. This could be seen as deceptive or morally ambiguous in a society that valued authenticity and civic participation. It truly sucked to be famous, but still looked down upon. For many, acting was not a chosen career path in the modern sense. It was often born out of necessity, a talent recognized and cultivated from a young age within specific social circles, while later periods saw professional actors. In the early days of Athenian drama, poets like Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides often acted in their own plays. However, as plays became more complex and the demands of performance grew, specialized actors emerged. Your entry into this profession might have been through an apprenticeship with an established actor. Learning the craft through rigorous training and constant observation, the rewards for successful actors could be immense, fueling the allure of the stage. A victorious actor in a dramatic festival where actors, as well as playwrights, could win prizes, could gain considerable fame, kleos, wealth, and public adoration. They might be honored by the city, exempt from certain taxes, or even granted diplomatic privileges when touring other city-states. Imagine the roar of the crowd, the applause echoing through the theater, the fleeting taste of being a celebrated hero to thousands. This promise of recognition and prosperity was a powerful draw, pushing individuals to endure the hardships of the profession. However, this fame was often fickle and conditional. Your popularity could vanish as quickly as it appeared, dependent on your latest performance, the success of the play, or the shifting tastes of the Athenian audience, which could be notoriously harsh. A single bad performance could ruin your reputation and lead to public ridicule, or worse, cause the audience to riot and demand your removal from the stage. Imagine the immense pressure to perform flawlessly, knowing that your livelihood and your social standing hinged on the unpredictable whims of thousands of demanding spectators. It really sucked to be in a popularity contest every time you worked. Beyond the stage, your social interactions would be complex. While you might rub shoulders with powerful citizens, your profession could still carry a certain social stigma. Unlike citizens who participated in public life through politics or military service, actors were perceived as living outside these traditional, respectable roles. They were performers, existing for the entertainment of others, a status that could be seen as less dignified than a citizen farmer or a hoplite. This subtle disdain, even amidst public adoration, created a perpetual social limbo, making it hard to fully integrate into polite society. The dangers of the calling were also significant. Traveling between city-states for touring performances, especially in an era without modern roads or security, was fraught with perils, bandits, bad weather, and unpredictable seas. Your physical well-being was constantly at risk, far from the comforts of home. Furthermore, the very nature of live performance in open-air theaters meant exposure to the elements, from scorching sun to sudden rain, contributing to physical strain and illness. One common misconception is that ancient Greek actors were always highly respected celebrities, revered like modern movie stars. While some actors certainly achieved immense fame and wealth, particularly in later periods, the Hellenistic era, their social status remained ambiguous and often precarious throughout much of the classical period. Some playwrights, like Aristophanes, frequently mocked actors in their comedies, reflecting a popular perception that could range from admiration to disdain. The very fact that actors were almost exclusively male and often played female roles contributed to a certain otherness that set them apart from conventional society. Historians still meticulously study ancient Greek comedies, philosophical texts, and epigraphical evidence like inscriptions honoring actors to understand the precise social status and public perception of actors across different city-states and historical periods, often finding a complex and contradictory public image. Furthermore, the highly competitive nature of the dramatic festivals added another layer of pressure. Plays were entered into competitions like the City Dionysia or the Lenaea, and your performance as an actor was judged alongside the playwright's work. Winning a prize was immensely prestigious, but the competition was fierce, and only a few could emerge victorious. This constant pressure to outshine your rivals, to deliver a performance that would win the favor of the judges and the audience, contributed to immense stress and anxiety, ensuring that your pursuit of artistic excellence was also a relentless battle for recognition. The initial training for an actor, often undertaken at a young age, was physically and vocally demanding. You would learn not just lines, but precise movements, gestures, and vocal techniques designed to project your voice and emotions to thousands of spectators without modern amplification. This rigorous preparation was essential for survival in a demanding profession, transforming your natural talents into powerful, yet physically taxing, instruments of performance. So, your initiation into the life of an ancient Greek theater actor was a terrifying descent into a dangerous calling. Despite the allure of fame and the potential for wealth, your precarious social status, the harsh realities of constant public scrutiny, and the relentless pressure to perform flawlessly in a physically demanding and often unforgiving environment ensured that your pursuit of dramatic glory was profoundly miserable from its very inception. Having embraced the precarious world of ancient Greek acting, your daily life backstage immediately introduced you to the iconic, yet profoundly uncomfortable, burden of the mask. Forget effortless expression. These were heavy, restrictive instruments that limited your vision and amplified your physical discomfort, making your artistic performance profoundly miserable. Imagine yourself in the Skene, the backstage building, preparing for your role. The Greek theater actor didn't rely on subtle facial expressions. Instead, your primary tool for conveying character and emotion to an audience of thousands in a vast open-air amphitheater was the mask prosopon, literally face. These weren't simple. Lightweight coverings, they were elaborate. Full head masks, often crafted from lightweight wood, linen, cork, or even thin layers of ivory, then painted with vivid, exaggerated features. It truly sucked to be a human bobblehead. The physical discomfort of wearing such a mask was immense. It was heavy. A full head mask, especially one made from wood, could weigh a considerable amount, perhaps a few pounds. Imagine balancing this weight on your head for hours on end, while simultaneously acting, moving, and projecting your voice. Your neck and shoulders would ache constantly, straining under the unyielding burden. Hot, the mask would completely enclose your head, trapping heat and preventing proper ventilation. In the hot Greek sun, or under the intense physical exertion of a performance, your face would sweat profusely, quickly turning the inside of the mask into a stifling, humid sauna. The sweat would trickle down your face, sting your eyes, and make the mask feel clammy and oppressive. This constant heat and discomfort could lead to dehydration and fatigue, impacting your performance. Restrictive, your vision would be severely limited. The eye holes on the mask were often small, narrow slits, offering only a tunnel-like view of the stage. You couldn't see your peripheral vision, making it incredibly difficult to navigate the stage, interact with other actors, or react to the unpredictable movements of the chorus without stumbling or misjudging your position. Imagine trying to perform a dramatic scene, full of movement, with only a fraction of your normal sight. It really sucked to see the world through a tiny peephole, muffled the mask, particularly those with a small mouth opening or a slight funnel shape. A debated feature meant to amplify voice could also muffle your hearing. While designed to project your voice outwards, a contested theory, they might also distort the sounds of the chorus or other actors, making it harder to hear your cues or gauge your own vocal projection. You were partially deaf to the very sounds you were creating. The artistic limitations imposed by the mask were profound. As an actor, you could not rely on subtle facial expressions, on the flicker of an eye, or the nuanced play of emotions across your face to convey your character's inner turmoil. All emotion had to be conveyed through exaggerated body language, dramatic gestures, and, most crucially, the vocal performance, which we'll explore in Chapter 4. This required immense physical and vocal control, as every emotion had to be writ large, visible to an audience sitting hundreds of feet away. Imagine trying to convey quiet despair or subtle cunning, using only broad movements in your voice. The mask also represented the fixed nature of your character. Once you put on a mask, your identity as a specific character was set. If your characters experienced a profound emotional shift or underwent a major transformation during the play, you would often have to physically change masks backstage, interrupting the flow of the performance and requiring quick, precise movements in the dim light of the scene. This constant switching, or the inability to convey subtle shifts in emotion with a static facial expression, was a distinct artistic challenge. It really sucked to literally have a fixed face. One common misconception is that all ancient Greek masks were designed with built-in megaphones to amplify the voice, while some theories propose this. There is no definitive archaeological or textual evidence to confirm it. The primary function of the mask was to convey character gender, age, emotion to a large audience, and to allow a single actor to play multiple roles. Voice projection was achieved through vocal training and the acoustics of the open-air theaters. Rather than mechanical amplification, historians still meticulously study the surviving fragments of ancient Greek masks and theatrical spaces, as well as classical texts, to understand the precise design, construction, and acoustical properties of these iconic theatrical tools, debating their exact impact on vocal projection. Furthermore, the very act of putting on and taking off these masks, often requiring a quick change backstage, was a logistical challenge. You had to swiftly transition between characters, managing multiple heavy masks, often in the dim, chaotic environment of the skein. Any fumbling or delay could disrupt the performance and incur the wrath of the audience or the playwright, who often directed their own plays. This added a layer of practical stress to your already demanding role. The symbolic weight of the mask was also immense. It represented the very essence of ancient Greek drama, where the actor was a conduit for character, a temporary embodiment of a larger archetype. Your personal identity as an individual was completely subsumed by the mask you wore, making you a vessel for the story. Rather than a distinct personality, this profound loss of self, however temporary, was a unique psychological burden. You were a performer, yes, but also a blank slate for the story. The discomfort and limitations of the mask were an integral part of the actor's craft. It forced you to rely entirely on your voice and body, pushing your physical and vocal talents to their limits. This brutal training method, born of necessity in the vast open-air theaters, ensured that even the most famous actors endured immense physical and artistic challenges, making their performance a true feat of endurance. So, your daily life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the mask's heavy burden. The constant heat, immense weight, and severely limited vision imposed by the iconic masks transformed your performance into a grueling physical and artistic ordeal. This inescapable discomfort, demanding immense physical and vocal control, was a defining, profoundly challenging aspect of your craft, ensuring that the creation of ancient Greek drama was paid for with your physical endurance and the literal loss of your own face, even as you wore the uncomfortable mask and battled its physical limitations. Your costume as an ancient Greek theater actor presented its own set of unique challenges. Forget sleece, form-fitting attire. The elaborate, unnatural robes and padding were designed for visibility and symbolism, not comfort, making your performance profoundly miserable. Imagine the layers you had to don. Ancient Greek tragic actors, in particular, wore voluminous, heavy robes, chitin that reached the ground. These weren't tailored to your body. They were loose-fitting garments that often required significant padding beneath them, especially around the chest and stomach encos, to give the actor an exaggerated, larger-than-life silhouette. This padding, often made of stuffed fabric or leather, was designed to make your figure appear more imposing and visible to an audience sitting thousands of feet away in a vast open-air theater. Imagine stuffing yourself with pillows before trying to act. It truly sucked to be a medieval Michelin Man. The sheer weight and bulk of these costumes were immense. The heavy fabric of the robes, combined with the extensive padding, could easily add considerable weight, restricting your natural movement and making every step a deliberate, cumbersome effort. Imagine trying to perform dramatic movements, run across the stage, or engage in the stylized combat while essentially wearing a padded suit under a heavy blanket. Your agility would be severely hampered, turning fluid movements into awkward shuffles. It truly sucked to trip over your own clothes. The heat inside these padded robes, especially under the Greek sun, would be stifling. The thick layers and heavy fabric would trap body heat, turning your costume into a personal oven. You would sweat profusely, rapidly becoming dehydrated. This constant heat and discomfort would contribute to profound fatigue, making it incredibly difficult to maintain your physical and vocal performance for hours on end. Imagine the sweat pouring down your body, soaking your inner layers, making the heavy robes cling uncomfortably to your skin, yet knowing you had to continue projecting emotion and movement. It really sucked to literally bake in your costume. Furthermore, the footwear kothurnus or kothornoi added another layer of physical challenge. Tragic actors often wore thick-soled boots or sandals, sometimes with exaggeratedly high platforms, to elevate their height and make them appear larger and more imposing to the distant audience. While this enhanced your stage presence, it also made walking incredibly awkward, unstable, and prone to stumbling. Your balance would be constantly challenged, and the risk of twisting an ankle or falling on the uneven stage was immense, especially when combined with restricted vision from the mask. Imagine trying to walk gracefully on stilts with a blind spot. It truly sucked to wear platform shoes from hell. The unnaturalness of the costume itself also posed an artistic challenge. The exaggerated padding and the towering footwear were designed to dehumanize the actor to some extent, transforming them into archetypal figures representing gods or heroes. This meant that any subtlety in your performance was lost. All emotion had to be conveyed through broad, sweeping gestures and amplified vocalizations. As the nuances of human movement were swallowed by the voluminous robes, your natural physicality was sacrificed for symbolic grandeur. The lack of costume changes during a play, particularly for the main actors who often played multiple roles, sometimes using a different mask for each character, meant that you were stuck in these uncomfortable, heavy ensembles for the entire duration of the performance, which could last for many hours, from dawn until dusk. There was no escaping the heat, the weight, or the physical discomfort until the play concluded. One common misconception is that all ancient Greek actors wore massive, universally standardized costumes, while tragic actors often wore exaggerated robes and platform boots for visual impact and to convey their heroic status. Comic actors and actors in earlier periods wore more realistic, though still often padded, costumes. The specific style and padding evolved over time and varied depending on the genre and the play's requirements. However, the overarching theme of discomfort due to bulk, weight, and heat remained pervasive across most elaborate theatrical costumes. Historians still meticulously study archaeological findings of theatrical footwear like kothornoi and the detailed descriptions in classical texts like Pollux's Onomasticon to reconstruct the precise designs and materials of ancient Greek theatrical costumes, confirming their often cumbersome nature. The psychological toll of performing in such uncomfortable and restrictive attire would be immense. You would constantly be battling against physical discomfort, trying to project emotion and movement while your body cried for relief. The heat, the weight, and the restricted vision would contribute to a profound sense of exhaustion and frustration. This constant internal struggle, trying to maintain an illusion of effortlessness while suffering immense physical strain, added another layer of misery to your artistic pursuit. You were suffering for your art. Quite literally. Furthermore, the very act of dressing and undressing was a laborious process, often requiring the assistance of multiple stagehands or assistants, Hippocrati. This lack of autonomy over your own body, even in the private moments backstage, reinforced your role as a mere instrument of the performance. Your body was prepared, adorned, and constrained, not for your own comfort, but for the grand illusion of the stage, highlighting the pervasive dehumanization inherent in your craft. So, your daily life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the weight of your costume, the immense bulk, stifling heat, and restricting nature of the elaborate robes and padding transformed your performance into a grueling physical endurance test. This pervasive physical discomfort, demanding immense strength and stamina, was a defining, profoundly challenging aspect of your craft, ensuring that the creation of ancient Greek drama was paid for with your physical suffering and the literal burden of your artistic persona. Even as you, the ancient Greek actor, endured the physical burden of the mask and the restrictive weight of your costume, your greatest instrument, your voice, faced an immense and brutal challenge. Forget subtle whispers or personal microphones. The sheer scale of the open-air theaters demanded an unyielding, powerful projection that led to severe straining and a perpetual roar, making your performance profoundly miserable. Imagine standing on the orchestra, the circular acting area, or the proscenion stage platform of a massive Greek amphitheater like the Theater of Dionysus. These colossal structures were built into hillsides, capable of seating thousands, sometimes up to 15,000 to 20,000 spectators. Stretching upwards in vast semicircles, your voice, your most vital tool, had to reach every single ear in that immense space, from the front row where the priest sat to the very last row high up on the hillside. This wasn't just speaking loudly, it was a constant, relentless projection of sound that pushed your vocal cords to their absolute limits. It truly sucked to have to scream your lines for hours. The challenge was immense because there was no amplification technology as we know it today. No microphones, no loudspeakers, no electronic aids whatsoever. Your voice had to carry purely through its own power, relying on natural acoustics and your own brutal vocal training. This meant every line, every emotional outburst, every single word had to be delivered with immense volume and clarity, ensuring it resonated across the vast expanse of the theater. Imagine the sheer physical exertion required to maintain this level of vocal output for an entire play, which could last for many hours, from dawn until dusk, with multiple actors performing. The technique involved more than just shouting. You would be trained in vocal projection, learning how to use your diaphragm and control your breath to push sound outwards efficiently. You'd practice endlessly, honing your ability to articulate clearly and to vary your tone and pitch, all while maintaining immense volume, however, even with the best training. The continuous strain on your vocal cords would be immense. You would constantly be on the verge of losing your voice, your throat raw, your lungs aching from the sustained effort. It really sucked to feel your voice ripping apart. This relentless vocal strain inevitably led to chronic vocal cord damage. You would suffer from persistent hoarseness, laryngitis, and potentially develop vocal nodules, growths on the vocal cords caused by overuse and abuse. Imagine waking up each morning with a raw, painful throat, knowing you had to go out and perform for thousands again. Over years of such demanding performances, your voice, your most crucial instrument, would slowly but inevitably decay, becoming permanently raspy, strained, or even losing its range and power. Your career was literally limited by the resilience of your vocal cords. Furthermore, the mask, as discussed in Chapter 2, Complicated Vocal Projection, while some theories suggest masks might have had a megaphone-like effect, there is no definitive evidence. More likely, they muffled the sound slightly, forcing you to push your voice even harder. The static, exaggerated expression of the mask meant that all emotional nuance had to be conveyed through your voice alone. Every sigh, every sob, every joyous shout had to be perfectly modulated and powerfully projected to carry across the amphitheater. Adding another layer of strain to your vocal performance, imagine needing to sound sad, but still roar loud enough for someone 200 feet away to hear your whisper. It truly sucked to rely on a mask to do half your acting. The acoustics of the Greek amphitheater, while often excellent by ancient standards, were not perfect. They were designed to carry sound. Yes, but they still required immense effort from the actors. The open-air nature meant that wind, rain, or other external noises could interfere, forcing you to strain even harder. The very architecture that enabled grand spectacles also demanded immense physical sacrifice from the performers. One common misconception is that the chorus, which we'll discuss later, or other actors were simply there to fill space, and the individual actors bore all the vocal burden. In reality, Greek drama was often highly collaborative. However, the lead actors, particularly in tragedy, carried the bulk of the dialogue and the most emotionally charged lines, demanding the highest level of vocal performance and endurance. The audience's appreciation for clarity and powerful delivery put immense pressure on these individual performers. Historians still meticulously study the architectural acoustics of surviving ancient Greek theaters, conduct experimental performances, and analyze classical texts describing acting techniques to understand the precise vocal demands placed upon ancient actors and how they achieved such powerful projection without modern technology. The long duration of the plays themselves compounded the vocal strain. Greek tragedies and comedies were typically performed in full, often lasting for many hours, from dawn until dusk. Especially during the dramatic festivals, you would be performing for the entire day, taking on multiple roles, each with a different mask and vocal quality, with minimal breaks. This sustained, relentless vocal exertion was a marathon for your throat and lungs, ensuring your vocal cords were constantly pushed to the brink of failure. The dust and environmental conditions also played a role. Performing in an open-air theater meant constant exposure to dust from the orchestra, which was often bare earth, pollen from nearby plants, and general airborne irritants. This, combined with the vocal strain, could lead to chronic throat irritation, allergies, or respiratory infections that would severely impact your ability to perform. Your body was not just working. It was under constant environmental assault. The psychological toll of constantly battling to project your voice, of feeling your vocal cords slowly giving out, and of fearing a breakdown in your voice during a critical scene would be immense. Your voice was your livelihood, your connection to the audience, your artistic soul. To feel it fraying, to experience persistent pain, and to face the prospect of its permanent damage would be a constant source of anxiety and despair. You were sacrificing your voice for fleeting glory So, your daily life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the brutal demands on your voice and volume. The constant, unyielding projection required to reach thousands of spectators in open-air theaters without amplification led to severe vocal strain, chronic damage, and the slow erosion of your most vital instrument. This physically destructive and profoundly challenging aspect of your craft ensured that the creation of ancient Greek drama was paid for with your aching lungs and the literal roar of your deteriorating vocal cords. Even as you, the male actor, strained your voice to fill vast amphitheaters and felt your body chafed by heavy masks and robes, your profession in ancient Greek theater presented a truly unique and often physically awkward challenge, playing all the female roles. Forget subtlety or gender fluidity. You were forced to embody women on stage, often requiring exaggerated physicality and vocal changes that added another layer of strain and discomfort, making your performance profoundly miserable. Imagine the dramatic demands. In ancient Greek theater, all actors were male. Women were strictly forbidden from performing on stage due to societal norms and religious customs related to the sacred nature of the festivals. This meant that every single female character, from the formidable Clytemnestra to the heartbroken Antigone, from the witty Lysistrata to the tragic Medea, had to be portrayed by a man. You, the male actor, were tasked with embodying the full spectrum of female emotion, action, and presence, often without the benefit of your natural physicality matching the role. It truly sucked to have to play your own mother. This required immense physical transformation and vocal agility. You couldn't just stand there and speak your lines. You had to convey femininity through exaggerated gestures, a different gait, and subtle shifts in posture. Imagine trying to portray a graceful goddess, a terrified maiden, or a grieving mother while wearing a heavy, padded robe, chiton, towering cot harness, platform boots, and a mask with fixed, often feminine, features. Your movements would have to be carefully choreographed and practiced to appear convincing, even when your body naturally resisted the unnatural contortions. The padding often used in costumes, as discussed in Chapter 3, further emphasized the female form, adding to the visual illusion, but also to your physical discomfort and awkwardness. Your voice was perhaps the most challenging aspect. You were performing in a vast open-air theater without microphones, requiring immense vocal projection as explored in Chapter 4. Now, imagine trying to maintain that volume and clarity while simultaneously modulating your voice to sound convincingly female. This meant altering your pitch, your tone, and your delivery, often pushing your vocal cords to their absolute limits in unnatural ways. While some theories suggest the masks might have subtly altered vocal quality, the primary burden rested on your own vocal training and physical strain. This constant vocal manipulation, shifting between male and female registers, would exacerbate the chronic hoarseness and vocal cord damage that was already a pervasive risk of your profession. It really sucked to scream in falsetto for hours. The sheer physicality of playing female roles could be exhausting. Tragic heroines often experienced profound emotional turmoil, expressed through dramatic lamentations, weeping, and physically demanding displays of grief. Comedies involved slapstick, exaggerated movements, and often bawdy humor. You, the male actor, had to perform these demanding scenes, embodying female despair or comedic exuberance, while your body was already taxed by the weight of your costume and mask, and your voice pushed to its limits. This physical performance of gender, often in extreme ways, added another layer of profound physical and mental strain to your already arduous daily grind, beyond the physical. There was a subtle psychological aspect to this gender-bending performance. You were constantly shifting between your male identity and your portrayal of a female character, requiring a constant mental adaptation. While ancient Greek society had different views on gender and performance compared to modern sensibilities, the act of perpetually embodying the other could be a demanding form of psychological immersion. You were an actor? Yes, but also a temporary living paradox, consistently embodying roles that fundamentally differed from your biological reality. One common misconception is that ancient Greek actors were gender fluid or that playing female roles was a common, easy part of their training. While the practice was standard, it required highly specialized training and specific physical and vocal techniques. The actors' bodies and voices were essentially tools to be manipulated to serve the dramatic demands of the play. Regardless of their own gender, the focus was on the external appearance and sound, not necessarily the internal experience of gender. Historians still meticulously study ancient Greek dramatic texts, which provide stage directions and character types, iconographic evidence depictions of actors and masks, and later commentaries by scholars like Pollux to reconstruct the precise techniques and challenges involved in male actors portraying female roles, often finding a blend of technical skill and physical exertion. Furthermore, the very constraints of the masks meant that your body had to do most of the work in conveying gender. The static facial expression of the mask meant that your posture, your walk, your hand gestures, and the way you held your body had to clearly communicate whether you were playing a powerful queen, a young maiden, or an old crone. This placed immense pressure on your physical acting, requiring you to carefully exaggerate female mannerisms to make them visible and understandable to an audience sitting far away. This relentless physical performance of gender was a constant demand. The risk of ridicule also hung over you. While the audience accepted the convention of male actors playing female roles, a clumsy performance, an unconvincing voice, or a poorly executed gesture could lead to public mockery in a society where honor and reputation were paramount. Being ridiculed for failing to convincingly portray a female character, particularly a tragic heroine, could be a source of profound humiliation for an actor. This pressure to perform perfectly, even when playing a gender that was not your own, added another layer of anxiety to your already demanding job. So, your daily life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the unique challenges of playing all the female roles, the physical strain of embodying women through exaggerated physicality, the immense vocal demands of changing pitch and tone for hours, and the constant psychological effort of gender-bending performance, all under the burden of heavy masks and robes, ensured that your artistic pursuit was a defining, profoundly challenging, and often physically distorting aspect of your craft, even as you wrestled with the immense physical and vocal demands of embodying lead roles. Your presence as an ancient Greek theater actor was always tied to the chorus. Forget simple background singers. This was a highly demanding, repetitive role, integral to the drama, yet requiring absolute conformity and relentless physical exertion, making your performance profoundly miserable. Imagine the chorus in a Greek tragedy or comedy. Unlike the individual actors who played specific characters and delivered dialogue, the chorus was a group of 12-15 for tragedy or 24 for comedy male performers, whose role was fundamentally different. They represented the collective voice of the community, the elders of the city, the women of a particular household, or the citizens. Their performance was a blend of song, dance, and spoken recitation, forming the lyrical and emotional core of the play. It truly sucked to be part of a singing, dancing, and constantly moving Greek mob. The choreography of the chorus was intricate and highly stylized. You would move in precise, synchronized patterns within the orchestra, the circular dancing area at the center of the theater. These movements were not spontaneous. They were meticulously planned and rehearsed, often involving complex formations, rhythmic steps, and synchronized gestures. Imagine spending hours practicing these exact movements under the blazing Greek sun, ensuring perfect unison with dozens of other performers. A single misstep, a moment of clumsiness, could disrupt the entire collective performance, drawing the ire of the audience or the playwright-director. This relentless demand for precision and synchronized movement was physically exhausting, requiring immense stamina and constant attention to detail. It really sucked to dance for hours in a circle. Your vocal performance as part of the chorus was equally demanding. You would not speak individual lines like an actor. Instead, you would sing or chant entire lyrical passages in unison or engage in rhythmic spoken exchanges with the actors. This required immense vocal control, projection, and the ability to maintain perfect pitch and rhythm with your fellow chorus members, all while simultaneously performing complex choreography in a vast open-air theater without amplification. Imagine singing at the top of your lungs for extended periods, maintaining harmony and synchronization, as your lungs ached and your throat grew raw. It truly sucked to be a human loudspeaker in a perpetual choir. The concept of conformity was paramount for the chorus. Your individual identity was completely subsumed by the collective. Your movements, your voices, your expressions, often through shared masks, all had to be uniform, reflecting the single, unified voice of the community you represented. There was no room for individual artistic flair or deviation. You were a single, synchronized entity, a powerful, dramatic device, but at the cost of your personal expression. This constant suppression of individuality, this relentless demand for perfect unison, could be mentally and physically exhausting. It really sucked to be a human hive mind. The duration of the plays compounded the exhaustion. Greek dramatic festivals often featured multiple plays performed consecutively from dawn until dusk. You, as a member of the chorus, would be performing for the entire day, often with minimal breaks, constantly moving, singing, and projecting your voice under the relentless sun. This sustained, rigorous physical and vocal exertion was a marathon, pushing your body and voice to their absolute limits, ensuring your chronic fatigue by the end of the day. The role of the chorus was to provide emotional commentary, moral guidance, and background information to the audience, bridging the gap between the audience and the actors. They represented the ideal spectator, reacting to the unfolding drama, lamenting the tragedy, or celebrating the triumph. This active emotional engagement, while expressed collectively, still required immense energy and sustained performance, making your seemingly secondary role vital yet incredibly demanding. One common misconception is that the chorus was a passive, unchanging element of Greek drama. In reality, the chorus was highly dynamic, interacting with the actors, moving across the orchestra, and often serving as a crucial emotional and narrative guide for the audience. Their role evolved over time, becoming less central in later periods, but their physical and vocal demands remained significant throughout the classical era. The very name of the orchestra, meaning dancing place, highlights the centrality of the chorus's choreographed movements. Historians still meticulously study ancient Greek dramatic texts, especially the choral odes, archaeological findings of theater layouts, and classical commentaries to reconstruct the precise choreography, musicality, and dramatic function of the chorus. confirming their physically demanding and intricately synchronized performances. Furthermore, the physical environment of the open-air theater added to the challenge. The bare earth of the orchestra could be dusty in dry weather, or muddy after rain, making complex synchronized movements even more difficult and prone to slipping. You were performing in direct sunlight for hours, risking dehydration and heat stroke, and exposed to any sudden changes in weather. Your dedication to the collective performance meant enduring these environmental hardships without complaint, all for the sake of the dramatic spectacle. The lack of modern stage technology, no spotlights. No sound amplification meant that the chorus had to rely on sheer human power to create its impact. Their collective voice had to be powerful enough to be heard by thousands, and their synchronized movements large and clear enough to be seen from the farthest seats. This constant need to project and exaggerate, even in unison, placed immense strain on every single member of the chorus. The psychological toll of this demanding, repetitive, and utterly conforming role would be immense. You would constantly battle boredom, fatigue, and the suppression of your own individuality. The pressure to maintain perfect unison, to avoid any mistake that would mar the collective performance, would create a pervasive anxiety. Your personal feelings, your artistic impulses were all subsumed by the demands of the group, leaving you with a profound sense of self-denial even as you contributed to a magnificent artistic endeavor. So, your daily life as an ancient Greek theater actor, particularly as part of the chorus, was profoundly miserable due to its relentless demands for choreography, conformity, and crowd control, the intricate synchronized movements, the powerful vocal projection in unison, and the constant suppression of individuality, all performed for hours in a vast open-air theater, ensured that your contribution to ancient Greek drama was a defining, profoundly challenging, and physically exhaustive aspect of your craft. Even as you poured your physical and vocal energy into the demands of the chorus or the lead roles, your life as an ancient Greek theater actor was perpetually defined by a different, often grueling, form of suffering, constant touring. Forget the comforts of a settled home. Your profession demanded arduous, often perilous, travel between city-states, making your performance career profoundly miserable. Imagine the end of a successful festival in Athens. The applause still rings in your ears, but your thoughts immediately turn to the next engagement, you and your acting troupe. Perhaps a small band of fellow performers and assistants would pack your essential gear masks, costumes, props, and any personal belongings and prepare for travel. This wasn't a relaxing holiday, it was a necessary and demanding part of your livelihood. And it often involved immense hardship and danger. It truly sucked to live out of a theatrical suitcase. Your primary modes of travel were either on foot or by sea. Travel by land. Imagine walking for days, sometimes weeks, across the rugged, often mountainous terrain of Greece. Burdened by your equipment, roads would be unpaved, dusty in summer, and muddy in winter, making every step an arduous effort. You'd face unpredictable weather, from scorching sun to sudden downpours, with minimal shelter. You might sleep in crude inns or simply camp under the stars, exposed to the elements and the risk of wild animals. Water sources could be scarce or contaminated, leading to constant thirst and the threat of disease. Your feet would ache, your body would be perpetually tired, and your mental resilience would be constantly tested by the endless physical exertion. It really sucked to literally hike to work. Travel by sea Greece is a land of islands and coastlines. Making sea travel common, you might board a small merchant vessel, crammed alongside cargo and other passengers, while faster than walking. Sea travel presented its own set of terrifying dangers. Sudden storms could capsize your ship in an instant, drowning you and your entire troop. Piracy was a constant threat, with ruthless buccaneers preying on vulnerable merchant vessels, robbing you of your possessions, or even enslaving you, navigating unpredictable winds and currents, facing seasickness and the stench of crowded, unsanitary ships, made every sea voyage a precarious gamble with your life. It really sucked to be seasick and fear pirates. The dangers of the road were constant. Beyond nature's fury and unpredictable seas, you faced human threats. Banditry was common in remote or less governed areas, with desperate individuals or organized gangs ambushing travelers to steal their valuable stage equipment, which could include expensive masks and costumes or any money earned from performances. You would have to travel armed, or hire a few guards, adding to your expenses and worries. A violent encounter could leave you injured, robbed, or even dead, cutting short your career and leaving your troops stranded. It really sucked to be ambushed on the way to your next gig. The logistics of touring were complex and often precarious. You had to negotiate with city officials or festival organizers in each new city-state, securing performance venues, lodging, and payment. Your income could be unpredictable, dependent on the success of your performance and the generosity of the local authorities. Sometimes, payments might be delayed or withheld, leaving your troops stranded in a foreign city, facing destitution. This financial precarity, coupled with the dangers of travel, made every tour a high-stakes venture. The lack of consistent comfort and proper rest took a significant toll on your body. Weeks or months of constant travel, sleeping in unfamiliar beds or on the ground, eating rudimentary and often unappetizing food, and enduring the stress of uncertainty would leave you perpetually exhausted. Your body, already strained by the physical demands of your performances, would have little opportunity for true, restorative rest, leading to chronic fatigue, susceptibility to illness, and a general decline in health. It really sucked to be constantly tired and sore. One common misconception is that ancient Greek actors only performed at major festivals in Athens. In reality, successful actors and troupes would tour extensively throughout the Greek world, performing at various local festivals, Pan-Hellenic games like the Pythian Games at Delphi or the Nemean Games, and for wealthy patrons in different city-states, this touring was a crucial part of their livelihood and a way to gain broader fame. The term Dionysiac artist, teknete Dionysu. Teknetai Dionysu referred to professional guilds of actors and musicians who traveled for performances, highlighting the organized nature of touring. Historians still meticulously study epigraphical evidence inscriptions honoring actors in various cities and textual accounts like those detailing the travels of famous actors to understand the precise itineraries and logistical challenges of ancient Greek theatrical touring, confirming its widespread and arduous nature. Furthermore, the cultural differences between city-states, even within Greece, added another layer of challenge. Each polis might have its own specific customs, its own interpretation of dramatic themes, and its own unique political sensitivities. You would have to constantly adapt your performance, your interactions, and your behavior to suit the local audience and authorities, a demanding act of cultural navigation that added to your mental strain. A play that was a triumph in Athens might be misunderstood or even offensive in Sparta, requiring quick adaptations. The psychological toll of this nomadic, dangerous existence would be immense. You would live with a constant sense of impermanence, perpetually far from the comforts of a settled home. The constant threat of banditry, shipwreck, and financial precarity would breed deep anxiety and paranoia. The loneliness of life on the road, separated from stable relationships, would chip away at your spirit, leaving you with a profound sense of rootlessness. Your pursuit of artistic glory was intertwined with a restless, often terrifying, existence. The very act of performing in different theaters, with varying acoustics and stage layouts, required constant adaptation and further strain. A voice perfectly projected in the theater of Dionysus might need different techniques to reach the back rows of a smaller, differently shaped venue. This constant physical and vocal adjustment, even after endless rehearsals, meant that your performance was perpetually a new challenge, demanding your full attention and effort. So your life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the relentless demands of constant touring, the arduous, often perilous, travel by land and sea, the constant threat of banditry and shipwreck, the precarious logistics of securing engagements, and the profound lack of comfort and rest ensured that your pursuit of dramatic glory was a defining, profoundly challenging, and physically exhausting aspect of your craft. This nomadic, dangerous existence made every performance a testament to your endurance, even as you toured the city-states, enduring the physical tolls of travel and performance. Your life as an ancient Greek theater actor extracted a heavy price from your body itself. Forget a long, healthy career. The relentless demands of the stage led to chronic injuries, vocal strain, and overall physical decay, making your chosen profession profoundly miserable. Imagine the cumulative impact of years, perhaps decades, of continuous performance. Your body, your instrument, was constantly pushed to its limits. This wasn't a gentle art form. It was a physically demanding profession that often led to debilitating long-term health issues. Your vocal cords would be under immense, constant strain. As we discussed in Chapter 4, projecting your voice to thousands in vast open-air theaters without amplification required immense power. This relentless use, day after day, for hours on end, inevitably led to chronic hoarseness, laryngitis, and potentially the development of vocal nodules or polyps, growths on the vocal cords caused by overuse and abuse. Imagine waking up each morning with a raw, aching throat, your voice raspy, yet knowing you had to go out and perform again, pushing through the pain. Over time, your voice, your most crucial tool, would slowly but inevitably decay, becoming permanently strained, losing its range, and perhaps even failing entirely, ending your career prematurely. It truly sucked to literally scream your way to retirement. Your musculoskeletal system also suffered greatly. The elaborate, often padded costumes, as explored in Chapter 3, were heavy and cumbersome, restricting natural movement and putting strain on your back, shoulders, and joints. The thick-soled Cothurnus platform boots made walking awkward and unstable, leading to chronic ankle, knee, and hip problems. Performing stylized gestures, dramatic falls, or energetic dance routines, especially for the chorus for hours on end, contributed to repetitive strain injuries, aching muscles, and premature arthritis. Imagine enduring a chronic ache in your back or knees, a constant companion that reminded you of every performance. It really sucked to hobble your way through life after acting. Your eyesight would also be affected, performing under the bright, unfiltered Greek sun for hours, coupled with the strain of precise movements and interactions, especially with limited vision from masks, as discussed in Chapter 2, could lead to chronic eye strain, headaches, and ultimately, premature vision impairment, the intense glare, the constant focusing on distant audiences, and perhaps the dust of the orchestra stage ground would slowly chip away at your visual acuity. Imagine your world slowly blurring, making it harder to discern faces or navigate effectively. A cruel irony for someone who created visual spectacles. It really sucked to go blind for your audience. The lack of proper medical care exacerbated all these issues. Ancient Greek medicine, while innovative in some areas, lacked modern understanding of the vocal cord pathology, chronic joint conditions, or the cumulative effects of repetitive strain. There were no specialized vocal therapists, no orthopedic surgeons, and no modern pain management beyond rudimentary herbal remedies or sedatives. If you suffered a severe injury on stage, or if your voice simply gave out, your career was over, and you would face a life of chronic pain and limited function. With little hope for effective treatment, it truly sucked to have your body be your only tool. With no one to truly fix it, one common misconception is that all ancient Greek actors were healthy and physically perfect. While they were undoubtedly well-trained and resilient, the rigorous physical demands of their profession, coupled with environmental stressors, performing in open-air theaters in all weather, and the limitations of ancient medicine, meant they suffered a range of occupational ailments. Archaeological findings of skeletal remains from individuals in actor-like professions, though difficult to definitively identify actors, sometimes show signs of vocal cord lesions, joint degeneration, and bone stress consistent with physical performance. Historians still meticulously study these osteological records, as well as ancient medical texts and descriptions of theatrical practices. To understand the precise physical toll of an acting career in ancient Greece, furthermore, the very competitive nature of Greek drama contributed to this physical decay. You were constantly pushed to exceed your limits, to project louder, move more dramatically, and endure longer, all to win prizes and gain favor. This relentless pressure to perform at peak capacity, even when your body screamed in protest, accelerated the onset of chronic injuries and the overall physical breakdown. The pursuit of artistic glory became a form of self-immolation. The psychological toll of this physical suffering and decline would be immense. You would live with perpetual aches, constant vocal discomfort, and the fear of your body betraying you during a critical performance. The knowledge that your career, your livelihood, and your very identity were inextricably linked to a body that was slowly breaking down, with no hope of lasting repair, would be a constant source of anxiety and despair. You were sacrificing your physical well-being for fleeting moments of applause, a brutal trade-off that eroded your spirit. The life of an ancient Greek actor, therefore, was a perpetual struggle against physical deterioration. Every performance chipped away at your body. Every roaring line strained your voice. And every dramatic gesture contributed to a slow, agonizing decay. Your enduring performances for thousands of years were built on a foundation of profound personal suffering, making the pursuit of dramatic glory a truly miserable ordeal. So, your life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the relentless physical toll of your performance career. The chronic injuries, severe vocal strain, and overall physical decay caused by the demands of the stage, coupled with primitive medical care, systematically eroded your body. This pervasive physical suffering, ensuring your performances were paid for with your health and vitality, was a defining, profoundly miserable aspect of your craft, ensuring that the creation of ancient Greek drama was literally etched in your physical agony, even as your body suffered the relentless physical toll of performance and your spirit withered under constant strain. Your life as an ancient Greek theater actor was perpetually defined by a profound, pervasive paradox. You were revered, yet often despised. Forget universal adoration. Your celebrated status on stage often clashed with a deep-seated social stigma from respectable society. Making your profession profoundly miserable, imagine the applause ringing in your ears as you finished a triumphant performance. The audience, thousands strong, cheered your name, perhaps even throwing garlands onto the stage. You were a hero, an artist, a vital part of the civic and religious life of Athens, especially during the great dramatic festivals. You commanded attention, inspired emotions, and your name might be known across the Greek world. This was the pinnacle of your public glory. It truly sucked to be famous but still looked down upon. However, beneath this public adoration lay a pervasive social stigma. While actors could achieve immense fame and wealth, and their performances were central to Athenian civic and religious life, the profession itself often carried a subtle, yet deeply ingrained, disdain from respectable society, particularly from the more conservative elements and the intellectual elite. Public display and impersonation actors were seen as engaging in a profession that involved public display and, crucially, impersonation, pretending to be someone you were not, in a society that valued authenticity, civic participation for male citizens, and a certain stoicism. Acting could be seen as deceptive, theatrical, and even morally ambiguous. You literally wore a mask to hide your true self, which some found inherently suspect. Association with slaves and lower classes. While many actors were free citizens, especially in Athens, the broader entertainment industry often included slaves, freedmen, and individuals from lower social strata. This association, however indirect, could subtly tarnish the reputation of actors as a whole, linking them to less esteemed professions, playing female roles. As we discussed in Chapter 5, all female roles were played by men. While a theatrical convention, this gender bending on stage could be seen as unnatural or even morally questionable by some segments of society, further contributing to the actors' otherness and the perception of their profession as less respectable. Emotional display actors were required to openly display strong emotions on stage, from profound grief to ecstatic joy. In ancient Greek society, particularly for men, excessive public emotional display could sometimes be viewed as a sign of weakness or a lack of self-control. The actor, by embodying these extreme emotions, might inadvertently cross social boundaries of acceptable male conduct, attracting subtle disdain from conservative elements. This social stigma meant that while you might be celebrated on the stage, you were often looked down upon off the stage. Respectable citizens, particularly philosophers like Plato, expressed reservations about the moral implications of acting, arguing that constant impersonation could corrupt the soul and lead to a lack of genuine virtue. While Plato's views were not universally adopted, they reflect a deeper societal discomfort with the theatrical profession. This paradox of being simultaneously revered for your talent and reviled for your profession created a pervasive psychological burden. You would constantly be aware of this unspoken disdain, the subtle slights, the judgmental glances. Even as crowds applauded your artistry, this forced you to live a life of careful navigation, trying to maintain your public image while privately grappling with society's contempt. It truly sucked to be an acclaimed pariah. One common misconception is that ancient Greek actors always held a high, unquestioned social status due to their fame. In reality, while some actors achieved immense fame, wealth, and even political influence, especially in later Hellenistic periods, when actors became more organized into guilds and were exempt from military service, their social standing remained ambiguous and could be precarious throughout much of the classical period. The profession itself was often legally considered a timea, loss of honor or civil rights in some contexts, particularly in Sparta, This legal and social ambiguity highlights the complex and contradictory public image of actors. Historians still meticulously study ancient Greek comedies which often mocked actors. Philosophical texts like Plato's Republic or Aristotle's Poetics, and epigraphical evidence like inscriptions honoring actors in various cities to understand the precise social status and public perception of actors across different city-states and historical periods, often finding a nuanced and often contradictory public image. Furthermore, the very commercialization of theater in later periods could contribute to this stigma, as dramatic festivals became larger, more professionalized, and involved touring troupes. Some conservative elements might have viewed actors as mere entertainers seeking profit, rather than sacred figures performing religious rites. This shift in perception, from ritualistic performer to professional showman, subtly eroded the sanctity of the actor's role. The lack of political rights for actors unless they were Athenian citizens, and even then, their profession could be seen as problematic by some further reinforce their marginalized status. They could not fully participate in the democratic processes, which were central to Athenian male citizen identity, contributing to their sense of otherness despite their public prominence. Their voice was heard on stage, but silence in the assembly. The psychological toll of living with this pervasive social stigma, of being constantly aware of society's subtle disdain, would be immense. You would constantly be battling against external judgment and internal insecurity. The knowledge that your chosen profession, your artistic passion, placed you at the fringes of respectable society, even as it brought you fame, would erode your self-esteem and lead to a profound sense of isolation. You were revered, yet not truly accepted, making your path a lonely one. So, your life as an ancient Greek theater actor was profoundly miserable due to the pervasive social stigma. Despite being celebrated on stage and revered for your talent, you were often looked down upon by respectable society. Viewed as deceptive, morally ambiguous, or simply associated with lower classes. This profound paradox of public reverence and private disdain was a defining, profoundly challenging, and ultimately heartbreaking aspect of your craft, ensuring that your artistic glory came at the cost of your true social standing and personal dignity. You've battled through the precarious social status of your calling, endured the physical burden of the mask, struggled with the restrictive weight of your costume, strained your voice to fill vast amphitheaters, taken on the awkward challenge of playing female roles, moved in rigid conformity as part of the chorus, suffered the hardships of constant touring, and finally carried the physical decay of a body broken by performance, all while wrestling with the paradox of being revered yet despised. As the distant applause fades and the phantom scent of ancient stage dust finally dissipates, a profound, lingering truth settles upon you: the backstage life of an ancient Greek theater actor, despite its moments of fleeting glory, was a miserable existence defined by hardship, social precariousness, and eventual anonymity, leaving behind a fragile legacy. Consider the fundamental paradox of your artistic life. You were a creator of beauty, a conveyor of profound human emotions and philosophical ideas, enchanting audiences of thousands with your skill. Yet, this very artistry often carried a subtle social stigma, relegating you to a lower social standing than the citizens you entertained. Your talent was celebrated, but your profession was often viewed with suspicion or disdain, a performative act that some deemed less real or dignified than traditional civic roles. It truly sucked to be admired by audiences but looked down on by society. Then there's the immense physical toll your craft exacted. Your body was your instrument. pushed to its limits daily, your voice, strained to fill vast open-air theaters without amplification, inevitably suffered chronic damage, leading to hoarseness and potential loss. Your eyes, strained by dim backstage lighting and bright sun, grew dim prematurely. Your limbs, constantly moving in heavy costumes and platform boots, suffered repetitive strain injuries and chronic pain. The physical demands of the mask, the costume, and the vigorous performances combined to systematically break down your body, ensuring that your pursuit of artistic glory often came at the cost of your very health and vitality, leading to a diminished and often painful later life. And what about the constant challenges and lack of autonomy? You lived a precarious existence, your livelihood dependent on fickle audience tastes, the success of plays in competition, and the unpredictable nature of touring between city-states. You navigated dangerous roads and seas, facing bandits and storms. Your creativity was channeled through fixed masks and rigid conventions, limiting personal expression. You were under constant public scrutiny, always on, with little privacy or true personal freedom. Your life was dictated by the demands of the dramatic festivals and the needs of your troupe, leaving little room for your own desires or a settled home. It really sucked to be famous, but not free. Finally, the fragile legacy and potential anonymity. While the playwrights' names are remembered for millennia, the individual actors, even the most famous ones, often faded into historical obscurity. Your performances were ephemeral, existing only in the moment. Without recording technology, your name might be inscribed on a few victory lists or honorific monuments, but for the vast majority, your immense contribution to the foundational art of drama became anonymous, absorbed into the collective memory of Greek theater. Your fame was fleeting, your enduring impact often uncredited, leaving a legacy that was, for you, ultimately threadbare. It truly sucked to be forgotten by history. Despite creating history, the very ephemeral nature of ancient Greek theatrical performance contributes to this sense of a fragile legacy, unlike Roman plays, which often had scripts that survive better, or monumental architecture which endures. The essence of Greek drama was the live performance itself. Once the play was over, the masks stored, and the actors departed, only memories remained. This immediacy meant that the actor's contribution, though vital and powerful in its moment, often vanished into time, leaving little physical trace beyond scattered inscriptions or literary allusions. This profound ephemerality underscored the challenge of leaving a lasting personal legacy. Historians still meticulously piece together evidence from vase paintings, theater architecture, and fragmented texts to reconstruct the precise nature of ancient Greek theatrical performance, acknowledging the immense, yet often anonymous, contribution of the actors. Ultimately, your life as an ancient Greek theater actor was a profound paradox. You stood at the very birthplace of Western drama, a conduit for powerful stories and profound emotions, yet this divine calling came at an immense personal cost, a life of brutal physical demands, constant psychological strain, pervasive social ambiguity, and a profound lack of personal autonomy. Your existence was a dramatic performance in itself, a testament to enduring hardship, ensuring that your contribution to one of history's greatest art forms was profoundly, undeniably miserable. As you now drift into a deep, comforting sleep, let the distant echoes of ancient applause and the imagined weight of your actor's mask finally subside. You're safe in your own time, far removed from the physical tolls and social precariousness of an ancient stage. May your dreams be peaceful, filled with the quiet certainty of comfort, the freedom to choose your own path, and the profound joy of a life where your artistic expression is truly celebrated. A stark contrast to the miserable truth we've explored tonight. And now, good night and have sweet dreams.